You've built the plan. Now let's roll up our sleeves and actually make those security controls work. Welcome to the Cyber Cafe. In this video, we will discuss the implementation step of the risk management framework. So grab yourself a cup of coffee and let's dive in. The objective of this video is for you to understand what are the activities that are performed during the implementation step of the risk management framework. At the end of this video, you will be able to describe the controls that are deployed based on the selected risk treatment options and explain how to configure those controls. The first activity under implementation is to deploy the controls. This involves making the selected risk treatment options effective. This may include the development, acquisition, or modification of hardware or software controls. So it could involve things like firewalls, antivirus software, intrusion detection systems, as well as other types of controls that are technical in nature. It could also involve non-technical controls such as policies, procedures, training, awareness programs, and so on. Now the controls need to be installed or configured in accordance with the documented risk treatment options. And this would include things like the system security settings, the baselines, as well as other relevant documents that are created during the earlier steps of the risk management framework. So essentially, we are taking the agreed-upon set of countermeasures, and we are actually putting them into place. We are deploying the controls and making sure they are actually working as intended. Now, the next activity under the implementation step is to configure controls. The controls that have been deployed need to be configured, and this is where we actually set the controls to the appropriate level of protection. So, for example, if we have a firewall, we need to configure the rules and the policies for that firewall. If we have an antivirus software, we need to make sure that the software is updated and the settings are appropriate for the level of risk that we are trying to mitigate. So this is where we actually take the controls that have been put in place and we actually tune them to the specific needs of our environment. So we are actually setting the control parameters at this point. NIST Special Publication 853 is a widely recognized set of cybersecurity standards and guidelines, and it provides a comprehensive approach to managing risk. It was developed by the National Institute of Standards and Technology, hence the name NIST SP 853, and it is used by federal agencies in the United States, but its use has expanded beyond that to include private sector organizations, as well as other government agencies worldwide. So let's take a look at how NIST SP 853 can help us implement the risk management process. So the first thing that NIST SP 853 does is it provides a common language and a consistent framework for managing risk. So it defines a set of terms and concepts that are used throughout the standard, which allows for clear communication among stakeholders. It also provides a structured approach to risk management that can be applied consistently across different systems and organizations. The next thing that NIST SP 853 does is it identifies a set of security and privacy controls that can be used to mitigate risks. So these controls are organized into 20 families, and each family addresses a different aspect of security and privacy. For example, there is a family of controls for identity and access management, another family for system and communication protection, and so on. Now, the third thing that NIST SP 853 does is it provides guidance on how to select and implement the controls. So, the standard provides a risk assessment methodology that can be used to identify the threats and vulnerabilities that are relevant to a particular system. It also provides guidance on how to select the appropriate controls to mitigate those risks and how to implement the controls effectively. And finally, NIST SP 853 provides a framework for monitoring and evaluating the security and privacy controls. So the standard provides guidance on how to assess the effectiveness of the controls and how to make adjustments as needed. This helps organizations to ensure that their controls are always appropriate and effective. So hopefully, you can see how NIST SP 853 can be a valuable resource for implementing the risk management process. By following the guidance provided in the standard, organizations can develop and implement effective security and privacy controls that can help them to manage risk more effectively. So let us take a look at some examples of how NIST SP 853 can be used in practice. So for example, an organization may use the risk assessment methodology in NIST SP 853 to identify the threats and vulnerabilities that are relevant to a particular system. Based on the results of the risk assessment, the organization can then select the appropriate controls from the 20 families in NIST SP 853 to mitigate the risks. Once the controls have been selected, the organization can then use the implementation guidance in NIST SP 853 to implement the controls effectively. Finally, the organization can use the monitoring and evaluation guidance in NIST SP 853 to assess the effectiveness of the controls and make any necessary adjustments. So as you can see, NIST SP 853 can be a valuable resource for organizations looking to improve their risk management processes. By following the guidance provided in the standard, organizations can develop and implement effective controls that can help them to manage risk more effectively. Thank you for watching this video. If you found this helpful, like the video, subscribe and stay tuned for more content. Thanks for watching.